This tutorial is going to show you how you can set up your Illustrator document to start actually designing the type characters for your chosen typeface. We are going to go through this step by step, and I'm going to show you the processes of building your typeface, just using a simple sans serif typeface that we'll just show you the functions that you can use. Obviously there are going to be some things that are going to be different depending on the individual style and characteristics of your typefaces, but the process will be kind of the backbone of what you will be doing, so it'll be wise to follow. Okay, so let's first of all open up Illustrator. We're going to go into a new document. Now I'm going to make my document a square. Because we are designing a typeface, we want to work in points. Now, the bigger the typeface, the more accurate you can get the details. So we're going to work quite high. So if you think of the standard font sizes that you use on documents, they're going to be about 12 point, 14 point. We are going to design our typeface at 500 point. So what I'm going to do is create a box here. 500 pt, or I could just change it here to points and do that. I'm not going to change anything else, and we're going to just click OK. The next thing I'm going to do is go View, Rulers, Show Rulers. I need to go into my preferences, and in the units I'm going to change it from mil to points. Okay, so this is obviously where we have the 500 by 500. Now I'm then going to make sure I have my guides showing. So I'm going to just turn the lock guides off. And what we're going to do is you need to define from your drawings, particularly if you're doing a lowercase one, where your baseline is going to be. So what I'm going to do is just drag out a guide. Now I want my typeface baseline to be at about 350. So what I'm going to do is drag it out here with the guide selected. I want to place that position. So you can see here on the y-axis it's 363, so if I type in 350 it jumps up. Okay, the typeface will always be aligned to the left hand corner here, so I've put a mark there. I'm then going to drag a guide out to 500. I'm then going to do my X height. So the X height will be the size of the baseline to the top of your lowercase letter, and that is going to be the 0. I'm going to go beyond the height of the artboard now, and I'm going to do the cap height or the ascender height line. So I gave myself 150 point down here, so I'm going to have 150 at the top here. You don't have to, that's not like a general rule, but I'm just going to follow that because I want this to be a nice geometric typeface. Okay, so same rule, drag it out, you won't see 150 exactly, select it, go into the transform palette, so I'm looking for minus 150 point there. Okay, width, we don't need to do any guide to widths. Now I'm going to turn the artboard off, so go View and Hide Artboards. So we have now our baseline, our X height line, our descender line, and our ascender line, which is also going to be our cap line. You could, if you wanted to, just indicate the 500 mark for the width, if necessary, or actually just do the X height of the box as well. So I could say this is 350, I could drag a guide out here, and in the transform put that at 350. Just to give you a sense of aspect ratio, but we'll be designing the characters within this kind of area here. Okay, I would advise that you save it, and the next thing we're going to do is lock our guides. So if I just go view guides and lock guides, so now we cannot go changing that. Alright, the next thing I'm going to do is going to bring up a grid. The grid doesn't necessarily need to be used, but because I'm doing a geometric typeface, I think it would be good to have the grid in there just to keep out. So I'm going to go view, guides and grids. Now we're working in points, and we want, if you're going to use the grid, it's better to have as many subdivisions, or as possible. So I'm working sort of in points. I'm going to do a grid line every 50 points, and I'm going to divide that by 10. And OK, and click OK, and then if we go view, show grid. Okay, it's each one of these then is 10 points, and then each one of those 50 points. It might be helpful, given the circumstances, to change our grid, our guide colour. So I can do that going into preferences, guides and grids, and if I make the guides black, so now I can see it more clearly. Okay, right then, let's get started. So now normally you'd have some drawings to take this from. I'm just going to use my basic knowledge of existing typefaces, and I'm just going to come up with one. I'm going to do a lowercase one, and when you do lowercase, you need to think about creating a letter, or starting with a letter that has all aspects of the DNA in it. So something that would have a lot, particularly with a sans serif typeface, something that would have good DNA to start off would be a small rounded character, and there's nothing easier than the letter O to do that. So I'm just going to go to my ellipse tool, and I'm just going to drag out a circle. Don't worry about getting the positioning dead on right now. Our key is to make sure that the bottom left hand point is in line with these two, the cross point of the baseline and our left hand side line. So this is going to help me define the stroke width, the stroke height, transition, everything. I want to obviously put a colour of the stroke on there. So at the moment I've just got a standard stroke thickness. Now this isn't going to match completely, don't worry. I'm just making sure that my bottom is in line with that. Let's get some thickness onto this. So remember, we are working on a 350 point here, so if I made it 3 point, it's not really going to show much, so we are going to have to go up to 100 point, too much. So by trial and error I can go to something like 40. Okay, 40 is looking good. Let's maybe try in between, go 30. 30 is looking a bit better. Okay, now I can adjust it. Okay, and just increase that up to 30. Okay, you are going to have a couple of trial and errors with this. Just get it so that it sits in. Now with rounded characters like an O and so forth, you want the actual curve itself to just be kissing the top and the bottom of the X height lines. So down here it's just touching it. We need that to just go beyond. Okay, so it gives a sense of optical illusion that when it sits alongside a more squarer character, it looks the right size. If it was completely flush to the line, it wouldn't look very accurate. So I've got the position now. I need to look at my thickness here. It's 29.667. If I round that up to 30, it hasn't made a massive difference to my character, so that's fine. Now what I need to do is I'm going to use this, even though this is a lowercase o, I'm going to copy it because this is now going to become the basis for quite a lot of my letters. Once I've copied it, I'm going to take this one and I'm going to go Object, Path, Outline the stroke. So now there's my letter O, that's done. Now I've got my O, I can move on to other characters, and you should always work with it in its raw line format before creating it as an outline. So the next character to go to that would be quite simple would be a C. Simply just cutting part of this letter out. So I'm looking for the scissors tool, which lives under the eraser. I'm going to cut it right here, and I'm going to bring out a guide to indicate where I cut, so that then I can cut it accurately there, and then I can delete this bit. Now what I should have done before doing this is copied this just by going edit, copy, because I might need the shape again. So let's just quickly redo what I did. So and there, and now we have a lowercase c. So if I bring that out there, and then what I can do is go Path, Outline, Stroke. Now because I copied something that was in place there, I can paste it back into place. So go File, Paste in Place. It'll just reappear. So every time you paste something back in, copy it again. I can now look at doing another character that uses the rounded shape predominantly, and let's go, this one's going to be a lowercase e. So using the scissors, I want to cut it here, and I want to use the white arrow tool just to delete the point between here and here. I'm then going to use the pen tool and just draw a line across. There we have our E. So copy that across. Command F, and that pastes that in place. Let's just go Path, Outline, Stroke, and you can see how quickly we can start building up letters. So from this now, I can do a lowercase d. So all I'm going to do is drag a line up, and this needs to go up to the ascender line. And let's make that a 30-point stroke. First of all, give it a colour, and then we just need to get it in position. So I want this to kind of just meet along the sides of the transition of the stroke. So we have a lowercase d. Let's copy that. Object, transform, reflect, and do this on a vertical axis, and we have a B. And then we can go Object, transform, reflect, and do this on a horizontal, and position this, and we then got our P. And finally, Object, transform, reflect, and do again on the vertical, and we've got a Q. And each time just make sure that you are you're keeping the positions the same, you know, so the baseline is okay. I'm just going to delete that one there, and I'm going to bring my B back in place. Just copy that. And I can just select all of these. I can go Object, Path, Create Outlines, Outline Stroke. Now with these, I can then, would be to finalise it, I'd be using the Pathfinder tool to make them whole shapes. But what I would recommend is, until you're absolutely 100% that's how they're going to look, I would leave them in their kind of separate formats. So there we are. You could always copy and paste that. Okay, now I can start looking at the transition of characters that use straight and rounded elements. So for example here I've got the B, and I'm going to change it now to make a lowercase h. So I'm going to delete this point here with the white arrow tool. I'm going to go to the pen tool. I'm going to select this point here. I'm going to just hold the shift key and I'm going to drag down, and there we go. We have our H. Given the H, we can then create lowercase n. So this would involve taking this point and shortening it, and once we've got the n, the problem with working at such a high scale is that you will have to keep zooming in, zooming out, zooming in, zooming out, but it will pay dividends. Now, Object, Transform, Reflect, and do this on the horizontal, and then we have our U. So you can already see within the space of a few minutes we've got several characters there. And you know, if you do ever need to go back to, say for example, this A, this D, I want to make an A, I've taken it out of its raw format, I can still amend it, because all we simply need to do is use the white arrow tool to reduce this. Likewise, with the Q, I can turn that into a G, and I can turn that into a G. So I'm going to take the rounded element that we have here in a U, and I'm going to use that. So if I put it down here, it's going to be too low. If I put it up here, it's not going to look right. You can break your own rules with the descender line. You don't have to stick to it. It just, what's going to be tricky here is reverting this shape, which is an object with the path. So I'm going to bring this up to the baseline here. I'm then going to get this positioned. So I need to go to about here, and then that looks about right. Let's then get this lined up. Now this is why we're working at such a high scale, so we can make sure that we are actually there we go. Path, outline, stroke, and then it's simply a case of selecting the two, joining them together. Okay, and there we go, we've got a G, and you get the idea. So when you come to creating your typeface, remember this setup. You'll get lots and lots of characters in here. You can see how big the document page is, but remember the key is to keep copying and making a note of your the DNA, and you can always go back if necessary in Illustrator, but don't ever worry too much about finalizing something there and then like I was showing you here. It will make things a lot complicated. Keep it all in its raw format for as long as possible, and you'll be fine. Okay, thanks for watching.